Good evening, it's good to be with you. Verses from 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way, it is not irritable or resentful, it does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Paul wrote this for the church, and tonight I'd like to share a story with you that I think talks about relationships and love and the patience it takes to nurture a relationship. The name of the book is She Taught Me to Eat Artichokes by Mary Kay Stanley. I had seen artichokes in the produce aisle before, of course. I can't remember the first time I actually paid attention to them. I did know that they were always bunched one on top of another, balancing like vegetables do along the bin's edge. But it was my habit to walk right on past, pretending not to notice. To be honest about it, I didn't know what artichokes were, how you were supposed to prepare them, or how you were supposed to eat them, and what was there to eat anyway. All I knew for sure was that they have those pointy leaves that are really more like thistles. I touched one once, after finally acknowledging that artichokes and eggplants really did have a place in the produce aisle. The leaf, or the petal, or whatever it's called, pricked my finger. So then I wondered, how am I supposed to get one home to eat if I can't even pick it up and put in my cart? Besides, I always bought lettuce and tomatoes and green beans. They don't take much kitchen time, you know. My neighbor knew how to fix artichokes, although that's obviously not something you can tell about a person right off. The fact of the matter is you couldn't tell much of anything about her. That's how it is with people sometimes. They nod, they say hello, they laugh politely, and most keep a cautious distance. So you share a little conversation, small talk. Hello, I called to her from amidst my backyard flower garden. We sure could use a good rain. This soil is as hard as a rock. Don't worry, she calls back over her shoulder. It'll rain Saturday, right after I wash my car. We both chuckle at the notion, but then she turns to go into her house, and I get on with my digging and weeding. I must finish it so I can run to the store to buy lettuce and tomatoes and green beans. Ignore the artichokes. They're too prickly. And anyway, they'd probably take too long to fix, even if I knew how to fix them. There were a few weeks that one summer that I didn't go to the store or even see the neighbor very much. Our son was in a car accident. Suddenly, familiar routines evaporate into endless days beside his hospital bed. Days spent waiting for his body to get strong enough so doctors could repair his knee. The morning of the surgery, she was there, the neighbor. I thought you might want someone to sit with you for a while, she said simply. That's how it is with people sometimes. They're quiet, thoughtful, and just when you've decided that life's hectic pace requires them to keep their distance, they have a way of surprising you. But today, life's not hectic. Today there's time. So you sit next to each other and share a little more small talk. I just hate hospitals. They smell so antiseptic, I tell her. I know, she says, and they all look the same, no matter what color the walls are painted. As the hours wear on, we find ourselves treading closer to personal thoughts, inching toward intimate feelings. I'm scared for him, I offer in cautious invitation. I know, she replies. That's why I thought you might want some extra company. I've been scared before, too. Weeks later, we bring our son home from the hospital, and as his healing continues, it's back to scurrying through the store, grabbing some lettuce and tomatoes and green beans. A person can whip up a good meal in no time with that produce. I pause just long enough to watch someone looking over the artichokes, carefully studying the pile, finally selecting a couple, and I wonder if she pricks her fingers as she lays the artichokes atop the other groceries in her cart. There was our annual July 4th barbecue, a traditional ending to a traditional day. An aroma drifted across the patio, tantalizing guests who were too hot for one more game of backyard volleyball, even though the steaming sun finally had bowed to dusk's cool breezes. She came, the neighbor. She smiled, she chatted. She even told a couple of jokes. They were funny. No kidding. It was her first time to join us, and she stayed the evening. That's how it is with people sometimes. Ones you assume only listen politely. Ones you assume only chuckle appropriately, slowly allow you to move inside their borders. So it is with this neighbor, who, like you, always seemed in a hurry, begins to mold into a person whom you'd like to know better. I go home happy, feeling as though I've snatched an evening away from time, trading in busy hours for a pleasant discovery. The next day, of course, I'm back to the familiar routine, dash to the store, grab some lettuce and tomatoes and green beans. Everybody's in a rush for dinner tonight. But I stop long enough to gingerly pick up an artichoke, wondering how to fix it. And then I put the artichoke back. The holidays sweep in howling north winds, whipping snow in reckless patterns until white covered the last traces of autumn. Afterward, the moon appeared, casting its mellow glow across the clean, silent land. It was that cherished time of year when the peace of evening calls you outdoors to go caroling. Curiously, I invited the neighbor first. We had never sung together before, you understand. Now that I think about it, I didn't even know she liked to sing. But she came and she sang. Our sounds of the season mingled with the falling snow to fill up the soft night air. Later, we all settled around the fireplace. The room was warm and fragrant with the scent of pine. We sipped cider from steaming mugs, and we shared stories about our own Christmases past. I remember the year I got a black velvet dress, I began, instead of a doll. I knew I'd feel so grown up in a black velvet dress. But when there wasn't a doll under the tree, that was the first year there wasn't a doll. The neighbor smiled. I remember when my sister told me who Santa Claus really was or wasn't. I cried myself to sleep that Christmas Eve because I thought the next morning would be like every other morning. I was so afraid the magic would be gone. The shared memories brought smiles, laughter, a few tears, and at last a sense of contentment. For slowly from our treasured memories, a kindred bond began to emerge. That's how it is with people sometimes. When you least expect it, a common thread, golden at that, begins to weave together the fabric of friendship. After the holidays, it's back to more sensible meals. Stir up a casserole, slap together some hamburgers, quickly fill the cart with lettuce and tomatoes and green beans. Oh, and one eggplant. I saw a recipe I'd like to try, even though it might take a while. When her daughter graduated that spring, we celebrate the occasion on the neighbor's back porch. Cold cuts and spicy baked beans, slurpy watermelon, and lemonade so tart it made you pucker. Sometimes, she shared, I'm going to have a dinner party, a nice one, with good china and crystal. We'll dress up. The night of her party, I scurried to prepare dinner for the children, BLTs and chips and green beans. As I fussed in my own kitchen, I knew she'd be fussing in hers. I wondered what she'd serve us. She served us artichokes, each one in its own dish, each one accompanied by a smaller dish of real melted butter. Take the petals off one at a time, she explained, as she pulled one gently from the flower's crown. Dip the petal in the butter. Now hold on to the tip and put the petal part way into your mouth. She stopped and looked around the table. The warmth of the stewing has softened the petals, so they won't prick your fingers, she explained. How did she know? Now let your front teeth scrape off the meat as you pull the petal back out, like this. We peeled, we dipped, we scraped, slowly to savor. We laughed, we joked, we shared, never worrying about the hour of the evening. We dripped butter in her Irish linen tablecloth. We enjoyed background music, Mozart, I believe. Artichoke petals, properly scraped with their meat, mounded in a bowl at the table center. Surprisingly, the closer we got to the base of the crown, the more delicious and plentiful was the meat. Finally, she leaned forward to get our attention. You may think you've had the best the plant has to offer, she said, but actually the best is yet to come. When you've peeled off all your petals, you'll find a treat, a surprise. It's the heart of the artichoke, the gift of the plant. That's how it is with people sometimes. You peel the layers off one by one, slowly, patiently, making time, taking time. Rewarded in small ways, and all the while you're working toward a goal you didn't even know was there. As the stewing makes tender the artichoke petals, so too do time and effort turn acquaintanceships into the tender treasure that is friendship. That evening, in the glow of candlelight and in the warmth which can only be felt among friends, each of us reach the heart of the artichoke. We are most comfortable with the things we know the best, but if we always avoid the unfamiliar, we'll never know what riches may be waiting for us deep within the heart. The first encounter with an artichoke can be perplexing and somewhat formidable, for the artichoke gives little clue from its appearance of the delights that wait within. The heart of the artichoke is surrounded, protected if you will, by both leaves and the choke or thistle. When properly prepared, the choke is easily removed, and the small amount of meat on softened leaves yields a promise of what is to come. I want to thank all of you as you encourage each other with letters and calls, as you've gotten to know people you didn't even know in our congregation because you looked in the directory and reached out to them. So we continue to learn how to eat artichokes together. Amen.